Hey, I just got back from seeing Pacific Rim, Guillermo del Toro's giant monsters versus giant robots, epic summer blockbuster. And the first thing I want to say right at the top, if you don't hear anything else of this review, hear this. Do whatever you can to see this movie on the biggest, baddest ass screen you can find. I just got back from seeing it in true IMAX 3D, and it is worth the time, energy, and extra money it takes to do that. Holy crap. If ever there was a movie that deserves to be seen in its full glory on the biggest, most massive, most bombastic, titanic screen you can find, this is that movie. Holy hell, the 3D is phenomenal. The visuals are mind-blowing and over the top and insane. And seeing it writ large on that massive IMAX screen in glorious, vibrant 3D was a sight to behold. It was truly awesome. Okay, so here's how I really want to start this review. When I was a kid, before I had ever heard the term anime, I was addicted to these movies that, I don't know, somehow my dad recorded them on VHS. I think he recorded them off HBO or something. And they were called Shogun Warriors. And it was a series, I think, that some company in the United States took these Japanese anime and repurposed them for American audiences. And this was in the mid-'80s. And I was in Shogun Warriors, Vanguard Ace, and God, I can't remember the other ones, but there was a whole series of them, and I had all of them, and I watched these until the damn VHS tape ran thin, and I loved them with all my heart, and they just took up my imagination, and I love the idea of these gigantic robots that, you know, the guy has to yell the name of the move he's going to do before he does it. They have giant swords, or they have rocket hands, or whatever. You know, and then of course you grow up and anime becomes a thing in the 90s in America, and now anime is very well known. But I never imagined that I would get to see giant robots in a big budget Hollywood movie like this. Sure, we've had our Transformers movies. This is different. Guillermo del Toro really made an anime. He made a live-action anime with all the tropes of an anime, the good ones and the bad ones. I mean, this has the wacky scientist guy who's like, wah! And bumbling around, and you have to understand my things, that you see in every standard anime. It has all that. It has that wackiness. It has the melodrama. It has the very archetypical father-son relationship, and the old warrior who used to do it but now he can't, and he's stoic. Yeah, I know I will not let you go. Very, very Shogun Warriors, very anime. That stuff is all in this movie. So if you love that stuff, oh my gosh, this is a smorgasbord of delights for you. I found myself a little bit uninterested in the human melodrama for most of this movie. I found the characters to be rather bland and rather thin and rather interchangeable, and I felt like there were plot threads from characters that were pretty much abandoned. The female lead is set up as having a problem, and then her problem just sort of disappears. It's not a big deal anymore. It was really only a problem to reveal a different plot point for a different character, which is strange to me. And a lot of the stuff in this movie, it doesn't really conjure any emotional ties to these characters like you would have in, for me, Avatar. Avatar, you know, had that spectacle, but had the heart as well. But in relationship to Superman, which is a movie that in contrast to Superman, which is a movie that I blasted because it was all spectacle and no heart, or at least only heart in the beginning until Pa Kent leaves the picture. This movie I was fine with the spectacle. I was fine with just rolling with these spectacular visuals, the over-the-top action sequences, because they're done at such a high level. They're so effective and full of such imagination and ideas and, all the things that you've ever wanted to see giant robots do to giant monsters and more are done in this movie. It is a level of visual effects and scale that is unbelievable, and I loved it. I had such a blast. The visual style is quite something, and the trick that Guillermo pulls off here that is so tough with these, if you have a giant building-sized person fighting a giant building-sized monster, sometimes the fact that they are in relation to each other standard size, you lose that sense of size, that sense of scale. Never does that happen in Pacific Rim. In Pacific Rim, you always have a sense that these are giant, heavy, lumbering creatures and robots battling it out. And it always feels immense and powerful and impactful. Not to mention the fact that all of the imaginative elements of how they're piloted, all the rules of our world are so unique and cool and fun to look at that I just was lost in the imagination of this universe and the magic of how it might be to pilot a giant mech. So I had a friggin' blast. I loved it. I love just the 3D, the pure spectacle. This is a popcorn movie. I never felt like my intelligence was insulted. Whereas in, say, a Transformers movie, you get that giant citywide giant robots fighting each other stuff that Michael Bay does so well. But the rules for how Transformers transform and how all their little prickly bits fling this way and that, it just feels like gobbledygook and nonsense, and it doesn't hold together in any significant way. In Pacific Rim, everything seems thought through. There's a way things work, and you can see how it works and how it fits together and how doing this makes that happen. Now, the idea is that there are two pilots in each of these giant robots, and they are linked together through a mental, they call it the drift, where their minds meld. The details of that, a little foggy. For example, why do people have to talk to each other in the middle of the cockpit if their minds are linked? I understand that for the audience, I need to hear people say things, but if your mind is linked, you should know what the other person is thinking. So that kind of stuff was a little strange. And to be honest, I felt like the mind melding thing was a lost opportunity. I felt like you could have a much more interesting human drama if it was much more about, we see people share memories in this movie, and if there was a whole theme about, do I trust you enough to share my memories with you? If I share my memories with you, are you going to find out something I don't want you to find out? None of that is touched upon, and I feel like it was so rife for drama, for discussion, for character building. The sharing of memories in this movie only ever is expositional. It only ever gives you information that you need to continue the story forward. It doesn't seem to be about character. Like the idea that they would share memories with each other or share their minds is just a given. It's just they take it for granted. There's no risk. And the idea of how you select someone that you're compatible with in the drift is very mushy. Like, why do you have to fight each other with sticks to find out if your minds are in sync? It seems very odd. It's a cool scene, very odd. So it's uneven narratively, but all of that gets thrown out the window when a giant robot and a giant monster are fighting, and I believe it. I'm in that world. There's so much detail, and it's in 3D, and it's gigantic, and the IMAX, and it's Pacific Rim. I had a blast, and I hope you do too. I'm anxious to hear what you think. Please subscribe, and keep your eye out for newest, latest, best, my show that's coming soon.